The courtroom doors swung open with a heavy thud, and Grace Thompson stepped inside, her heart pounding like a war drum. At 28, she was no longer the terrified teenager her mother had dragged into that so-called treatment center. But the scars ran deep, invisible chains that had bound her for a decade. As she locked eyes with her mother, Evelyn, sitting rigidly in the defendant's seat, Grace felt a surge of rage and sorrow. How could the woman who birthed her have betrayed her so profoundly? All in the name of saving her from who she truly was? Grace's mind raced back to that fateful summer in Seattle, when she was just 18. She had come home from her freshman year at the University of Washington, buzzing with excitement about her new life, her new love. Hadley Brooks, her roommate, had become more than a friend. Their connection was electric, a quiet revolution in Grace's soul. But Evelyn had discovered their secret. A stolen kiss captured on a phone photo, and the world imploded. "This isn't you," Evelyn had hissed, her face twisted in disgust and fear. "You're confused. We'll fix this." The fix was a conversion therapy program in a remote facility in Idaho, disguised as a Christian retreat for troubled youth. Grace remembered the drive there, her wrists bruised from where Evelyn had gripped them, forcing her into the car. "It's for your own good," her mother repeated like a mantra, ignoring Grace's pleas and tears. Inside her head, Grace screamed, "Why can't you love me as I am? Am I so broken in your eyes that you'd shatter me further?" The counselors at the center preached repentance, forcing her to recount her sins in group sessions, where shame was the currency. They made her watch videos of ex-gays, who claimed happiness in heterosexual marriages, and when she resisted, they isolated her, cutting off contact with the outside world. Hadley had tried to reach her, sending frantic messages that never arrived, but Grace was trapped in a vortex of self-doubt. Days blurred into weeks. Grace sat in dimly lit rooms, listening to lectures on how her attraction to women was a phase, a rebellion against God and family. The lead therapist, Dr. Harlan, a stern man with a Bible always at hand, probed her psyche relentlessly. "Tell me about Hadley," he'd say, his voice dripping with false empathy. "What void is she filling that a man couldn't?" Grace's inner turmoil boiled. How dare he reduce our love to a symptom? But doubt crept in. What if they were right? What if her feelings were just confusion from a sheltered upbringing? She thought of her father, who had died when she was 10, leaving Evelyn to raise her alone in their conservative suburb. Evelyn had clung to the church, finding solace in its rigid doctrines, and now she was imposing that cage on Grace. One night, alone in her bunk, Grace whispered to herself, "I love Hadley because she sees me, the real me, not the daughter Evelyn wants." But the isolation gnawed at her resolve. They made her write letters renouncing her lifestyle. Letters Evelyn later used as proof of progress. When Grace finally emerged after 3 months, she was a shadow of herself, parroting the center's rhetoric to survive. Hadley was waiting, but Grace pushed her away, convinced she was toxic. "I can't do this," Grace had said, her voice cracking. "It's wrong." Hadley's eyes filled with pain. "Grace, this isn't you talking. They've brainwashed you." But Grace fled, burying her truth under layers of denial. Years passed in a haze. Grace threw herself into law school at NYU, channeling her pain into advocacy for others. She dated men sporadically, each relationship a hollow performance, ending in quiet admissions of incompatibility. Inside, the conflict raged. Am I living a lie to please a ghost? Evelyn visited occasionally, beaming with pride at her reformed daughter, but Grace seethed silently. "You saved me, Mom," she'd say through gritted teeth, while her mind screamed betrayal. Then a turning point. A news article about a lawsuit against a conversion therapy center, similar to the one she'd endured. The plaintiff one exposing the harm. Grace's hands trembled as she read it. Memories flooded back. The forced prayers, the electric shock aversion sessions they'd threatened but never used on her. The constant erosion of her self-worth. She thought of Hadley, whom she'd lost touch with after that brutal rejection. Was Hadley okay? Had she moved on? The guilt was a knife twist. Grace began researching, uncovering the illegality of such practices in some states, though Idaho lagged behind. But the real fire ignited when she discovered Evelyn had paid for the program with inheritance money meant for Grace's education, funds from her father's estate. It wasn't just emotional theft. It was financial. She stole my future, Grace muttered to her reflection. That night she decided she'd sue. Not for money but for accountability, to force Evelyn to confront the damage. As preparations mounted, Grace tracked down Hadley, now a graphic designer in Chicago. Their reunion call was tentative, voices thick with unsaid words. I never stopped loving you, Hadley confessed. But you broke me when you left. Grace's heart ached. I've paid the price, but so has she. Reconnecting stirred old flames but also fresh conflicts. Could they rebuild amid the impending trial? The lawsuit filing made headlines in local papers. Daughter sues mother over forced conversion therapy. Evelyn's response was swift denial. I was protecting her, she told reporters, from a path of sin and regret. Grace's inner voice thundered. Protecting? You destroyed me. Friends divided. Some sided with Evelyn's parental rights. Others rallied behind Grace. The pressure built, society's lens magnifying every flaw. In therapy, real therapy this time, Grace unpacked the layers. I feel like I'm betraying my family, she admitted. Her therapist nodded. Or reclaiming your autonomy? The sessions revealed how Evelyn's actions stemmed from her own fears. Widowed young, clinging to faith as armor against loneliness. But understanding didn't erase the hurt. Grace pondered. Can I forgive without forgetting? As the trial date loomed, Grace stood before her mirror, practicing her testimony. My mother didn't save me, she'd say. She erased me. The weight of it all pressed down, but for the first time she felt a spark of liberation. Hadley promised to attend, a silent pillar. Yet doubts lingered. What if winning costs me everything? The pretrial hearings were a battlefield of words, where lawyers dissected Grace's past like a specimen under glass. Evelyn's attorney painted her as a loving mother misguided by concern, while Grace's counsel highlighted the psychological trauma, backed by expert witnesses. Grace sat through it all, her stomach in knots, thinking, how did we get here, Mom? From bedtime stories to this courtroom war? Flashbacks haunted her nights. Back in high school, Grace had first sensed her difference, stealing glances at girls in the locker room, confusing admiration with something deeper. She buried it, fearing rejection in their tight-knit community. College freed her. Meeting Hadley in dorm orientation felt like destiny. Hadley, with her fiery red hair and unapologetic laugh, challenged Grace's walls. Their first date, a picnic by Lake Washington, was magic. You're not like anyone else, Hadley had said, her hand brushing Grace's. In that moment Grace thought, this is right. This is me. But Evelyn's discovery shattered the idol. The confrontation in their kitchen replayed endlessly. Evelyn slamming the phone down, her face ashen. How could you do this to me? She'd cried. To me? Grace echoed inwardly. As if my love is an attack on you. The decision to send her to the center was swift, Evelyn consulting church elders who nodded sagely. It's the only way, they assured. Grace begged. Please, Mom, let's talk. But Evelyn's fear overrode reason. At the center, the regimen was relentless. Morning devotionals hammered biblical verses condemning unnatural affections. Afternoons brought one-on-one sessions where Dr. Harlan dissected her childhood, blaming absent father figures for her deviance. Grace resisted at first. Love isn't a choice. But repetition wore her down. She began questioning. Maybe I am broken. Maybe Hadley's just a mistake. The other teens shared similar stories. Forced confessions, broken spirits. One girl, Mia, whispered to Grace during lights out. They can't change us, but they can make us pretend. Mia's words planted a seed of rebellion, but fear kept it dormant. Released, Grace returned to college, but the damage lingered. She avoided Hadley, transferring dorms without explanation. Hadley confronted her once, tears streaming. What did they do to you? Grace snapped. Nothing. I realized it's not real. The lie tasted like ash. Inside, she wailed. I'm protecting you from my mess. Hadley walked away, heartbroken, and Grace dove into studies, graduating top of her class but empty inside. Law school became her refuge, where she learned about rights and injustices. A seminar on LGBTQ+ discrimination opened her eyes. Conversion therapy was banned in Washington, now deemed abusive. Rage simmered. Why wasn't it then? She volunteered at legal aid clinics, helping others escape similar fates, all while suppressing her own story. Dates with men were obligatory performances. One Alex proposed after 2 years. Grace stared at the ring. This is safety, but is it life? She declined, admitting, I'm not who you think. Alex's confusion mirrored her own turmoil. Reconnecting with Hadley years later was bittersweet. Over coffee in a Chicago cafe during a work trip, they talked for hours. Hadley had dated others, even married briefly, but divorced when the facade crumbled. I never forgot you, she said softly. Grace's heart raced. Neither did I. But guilt shadowed joy. Hadley had suffered because of Grace's weakness. I should have fought harder, Grace confessed. Hadley squeezed her hand. We both paid the price. Their renewed bond grew tentative, stolen weekends amid Grace's lawsuit prep. Evelyn's deposition was gut-wrenching. Under oath, she admitted knowing the program's methods but believed they were necessary. I love my daughter, she sobbed. Grace watched via video link thinking, love? This is control masked as care. Family friends testified for Evelyn, citing her devotion. She was scared for Grace's soul, one said. Grace's mind rebutted. And what about my soul? Public backlash intensified. Online forums debated. Parental rights versus child autonomy. Grace received hate mail, ungrateful dyke, and support letters alike. The stress triggered panic attacks. She'd curl up whispering, I can't back down now. Hadley became her anchor, but tensions arose. Are you suing for us or for you? Hadley asked during a fight. Grace paused. Both? The question exposed fractures. Could love survive this storm? As trial neared, Grace uncovered more. Evelyn had hidden letters from Hadley during the treatment, intercepting pleas for help. Betrayal deepened. You isolated me on purpose. Grace confronted her mother in a mediated session. Evelyn broke. I thought I was doing right. Tears flowed, but no apology came. Grace left, resolve hardening. She'll pay the price now. Nights alone, Grace reflected on morality. Is suing family revenge or justice? The answer eluded her, but action felt inevitable. Hadley promised unwavering support, yet Grace wondered, at what cost to her? The high-wire act of reclaiming identity teetered on the edge. Opening statements in the Seattle courthouse set the tone for a grueling trial. Grace's lawyer argued coercion and emotional abuse, seeking damages and a public apology. Evelyn's side countered with good faith parenting, invoking religious freedom. Grace took the stand first, her voice steady despite inner chaos. This is my truth, finally spoken. Recounting the abduction-like drive to Idaho, she detailed the center's tactics, psychological manipulation disguised as therapy. They made me hate myself, she testified, eyes on Evelyn. Jurors shifted uncomfortably. Cross-examination was brutal. Didn't you sign consent forms? Evelyn's attorney pressed. Grace fired back. Under duress as a minor. Internally she seethed. Consent? It was survival. Witnesses followed. Dr. Harlan subpoenaed defended the program. We help confused youth. Grace's expert, a psychologist, dismantled it. Conversion therapy causes depression, suicide ideation, it's pseudoscience. Data flashed on screens, but Grace focused on Evelyn's face, pale and defiant. Why won't you see the harm? She thought. Hadley testified next, her presence a double-edged sword. Describing their college romance, she choked up. Grace was vibrant, then she came back shattered. The defense probed. Wasn't your relationship secretive? Perhaps unstable. Hadley retorted. Because of fear your client instilled. Grace watched, pride swelling amid pain. She's fighting for us both. But media sensationalized it. Lesbian love triangle in family feud. Turning personal wounds public. Evelyn's turn on the stand was pivotal. She spoke of her husband's death. How faith anchored her. I saw Grace slipping into sin, she said tearfully. I had to intervene. Grace's heart twisted. Sin? My love is sin to you? The cross-exam revealed financial misappropriation. Evelyn admitted using the inheritance. For her benefit, she claimed. Gasps echoed. Jurors leaned forward. Closing arguments amplified the drama. Grace's sighed. This isn't about religion, it's about abuse. Evelyn's. A mother's love knows no bounds. As the jury deliberated, Grace paced the hallway, Hadley by her side. "Whatever happens, I'm proud," Hadley whispered. Grace nodded but doubt nagged. "Will victory heal or divide further?" The verdict came swiftly. Guilty on coercion and misuse of funds. Damages awarded, $500,000, plus court-ordered therapy for Evelyn. The courtroom erupted. Evelyn collapsed in sobs. Grace felt hollow triumph. Justice, but at what price? Media swarmed. Landmark case against conversion therapy. Supporters cheered. Critics decried attack on family. Post-trial, Evelyn reached out via letter. "I was wrong. Forgive me." Grace stared at the words. Too late? Or a start? She visited her mother in their old home, tension thick. "You stole years from me," Grace said. Evelyn nodded. "Fear blinded me." Tears bridged the gap, but trust was fractured. "I love you, but I need space," Grace decided. Evelyn's pain mirrored her own. "We've both lost." Rebuilding with Hadley was tentative joy. They moved in together in Seattle, navigating therapy for couples scarred by past. Intimacy returned slowly, built on honesty. But shadows lingered. Hadley's resentment flared in arguments. "You chose her over us back then," Grace countered. "I was broken." Forgiveness was a daily choice, fraught with setbacks. Society's gaze persisted. At a pride event, Grace spoke publicly, her story inspiring others. Yet backlash followed. Anonymous threats, lost friendships. "Is it worth it?" she pondered in quiet moments. The answer evolved, yes, for authenticity. Evelyn attended mandated sessions, grappling with her biases. A family dinner attempt ended in tears. "I miss my daughter," she said. Grace replied, "I'm here, but as I am." The impasse highlighted moral gray areas. Was Evelyn villain or victim of indoctrination? Grace's career soared. She founded a nonprofit against conversion therapy, channeling pain into purpose. Hadley designed its logo, their partnership strengthening. Yet inner conflicts persisted. Have I truly reclaimed my identity, or am I defined by the fight? As months turned to years, the lawsuit's ripple effects spread. Legislation pushes in Idaho, national awareness. Grace reflected. The price was steep, but silence cost more. Hadley agreed, their bond forged in fire. Still, questions haunted. Can broken families mend? Years after the trial, Grace stood at a podium in Washington, D.C., advocating for a federal ban on conversion therapy. Her voice rang clear, but inside, the echoes of betrayal lingered. "I sued my own mother," she shared with the audience. "Not for revenge, but for truth." Applause thundered, yet Grace wondered. Have I become the poster child or just survived? Life with Hadley stabilized into a rhythm of love and routine. They adopted a dog, bought a house in the suburbs, mirroring the normalcy Grace once faked. But cracks appeared during holidays. Evelyn's invitations stirred debates. "She's trying," Hadley urged. Grace resisted. "Trying isn't erasing the past." Their arguments exposed vulnerabilities. Hadley's patience waned. "I'm tired of competing with your ghosts," she snapped one night. Grace recoiled. Am I punishing her for my trauma? A surprise visit from Evelyn escalated tensions. She arrived unannounced, bearing old photos. "Remember when you were little?" she said, eyes pleading. Grace's resolve cracked. That innocent child didn't deserve this war. They talked for hours, unearthing buried hurts. Evelyn admitted, "The church taught me wrong." "I see that now," Grace probed. "Do you accept me with Hadley?" Evelyn hesitated, then nodded. "I'm learning." It was progress, fragile as glass. But acceptance came with strings. Evelyn joined a support group for parents of LGBTQ+ kids, sharing her story anonymously. Grace attended once, witnessing her mother's vulnerability. "I lost my daughter trying to save her." Tears flowed. Grace thought, maybe redemption is possible. Yet doubt persisted. Is this genuine or performance? Professionally, Grace's nonprofit thrived, but burnout loomed. A case mirrored hers. A teen suing guardians triggered flashbacks. Mentoring the girl, Grace relived her pain. "Fight for you," she advised. The victory felt vicarious but exhausting. Hadley noticed. "You're giving too much." Grace confessed. "It's my atonement." For what? Her mind questioned. For surviving? A betrayal shook their world. A colleague at the nonprofit leaked confidential files, including Grace's personal story, to conservative media. Headlines screamed, "Hypocrite activist hid her cure." Twisted facts claimed Grace had benefited from therapy. Panic surged. "They're erasing my narrative again." Hadley rallied. "We'll sue for defamation." But the damage spread. Donors pulled back. Threats intensified. Grace isolated herself. Why does truth invite destruction? In the midst of chaos, Hadley proposed. On a quiet beach at sunset, ring in hand. "Through all this, you're my constant." Grace accepted, joy piercing the gloom. Their wedding was small, Evelyn attending tentatively. Vows exchanged, Grace thought. This is reclamation. But Evelyn's toast faltered. "I'm proud." Of who you've become. The subtext stung. Despite me? Or because? Honeymoon bliss was short-lived. Returning, Grace faced a countersuit from the leak's perpetrators, claiming free speech. Court again, irony bitter. Testifying, she confronted old demons. "My identity isn't debatable." Victory came, but at emotional cost. Hadley supported yet confided. "I'm scared we'll break under pressure." Grace assured. "We won't." Inside, but what if? Evelyn's health declined. A heart scare forcing reconciliation. At the hospital, Grace held her hand. "I forgive you, Mom." Evelyn whispered. "Thank you." Death loomed as possibility, sharpening regrets. Grace pondered. Have I waited too long for peace? Recovery brought uneasy truce. Family therapy sessions peeled layers. Evelyn's upbringing in a strict household. Her fears projected onto Grace. "I wanted to protect you from judgment," she explained. Grace countered. "You became the judge." Insights dawned, but healing was nonlinear. Society evolved slowly. Bans passed in more states, Grace's story cited in debates. Yet backlash persisted. Bills targeting LGBTQ+ rights. Grace marched, chanted, exhausted. Is the fight endless? Hadley grounded her. One step at a time. Their love endured, a beacon amid storms. Reflecting on choices, Grace wrote a memoir, exposing raw truths. Publication invited scrutiny, but also catharsis. The price of authenticity is high, she concluded internally. But silence is higher. As pages turned, so did her life. Toward hope, fraught with uncertainty. Decades later, Grace looked back on a life defined by battles won and lost. At 50, she and Hadley celebrated their silver anniversary in their Seattle home, surrounded by friends who'd become family. Evelyn had passed 5 years prior, leaving a will with an apology letter. "I was wrong. Live fully." Grace kept it close, a reminder of redemption's complexity. But scars faded, not vanished. Therapy continued, unpacking lingering doubts. Their adopted daughter Lily, now a teen, brought new perspectives. "Why did Grandma do that?" she asked one evening. Grace explained gently. Fear and love twisted together. Lily's acceptance, openly bi, highlighted progress. Yet Grace worried. Will society repeat cycles? Advocacy consumed her, the nonprofit now national. Hadley, retired from design, managed operations. We're a team. Their bond, tested by fire, proved resilient. A documentary on Grace's case premiered, stirring old emotions. Interviews revisited the trial. Evelyn's remorse captured in archival footage. Viewers debated online. Hero or divider? Grace watched, thinking labels missed the nuance. The film humanized Evelyn, showing her evolution, joining pride parades late in life. Grace's narration admitted, "Forgiveness was my hardest choice." But controversy erupted when a conservative group challenged the narrative, claiming exaggeration. Lawsuits threatened again. Grace stood firm. "Truth stands." Hadley fretted. "Haven't we paid enough?" Grace agreed inwardly. The toll is cumulative. Support poured in, but isolation crept during low moments. "Am I defined by pain?" she journaled. Lily's coming out party was a milestone. Friends, rainbows, Evelyn's photo on the mantle. Grace toasted. "To being you." Tears welled. This was the legacy she fought for. Yet inner conflict surfaced. Did my suffering pave this path? Or was it inevitable? Retirement loomed, but Grace couldn't quit. A new bill in Congress needed her voice. Testifying, she shared. "Conversion therapy steals souls. Ban it federally." Applause echoed, but opposition jeered. Exhausted, she returned home to Hadley's arms. You did good. Their quiet evenings, walks, talks, anchored her. I chose you always, Grace whispered. Hadley smiled. And I choose you again. Reflecting on morality, Grace pondered the gray areas. Parental intent versus harm caused. Evelyn's actions, born of love warped by dogma, sparked endless debate. Friends argued over dinners. She was abusive. No, misguided. Grace mediated. Both. As twilight years approached, Grace wrote a final op-ed. Reclaiming identity demands sacrifice from all. It sparked forums. Was suing right? Responses varied, mirroring society's divide. In her garden, Grace sat with Hadley, hands entwined. No regrets. Hadley asked. Grace paused. Some, but they shaped us. Peace settled, hard won. The story of Grace and Evelyn lingers as a cautionary tale of love, loss, and the high cost of authenticity in a judgmental world. But was Grace right to sue her mother? Or did the pursuit of justice deepen the familial wounds beyond repair?